Post-it note, so if you would line up in the order that your chronological order of your Post-it note and then come to the podium, you'll be given 3 minutes to state your remarks. 2 minutes to state your remarks, and then you'll hear a bell. And there you go, and that'll be your cue. Please state your name and your address, please.
Hassan, 395 Bonnevale Drive in Hermitage, Tennessee. You ready? Begin?
Yep.
Okay. As year 14 veteran of MNPS, I am the faculty advisory lead this year for year 2 because the teacher of the year for last year, who was supposed to take over, left the district. The faculty are without hope, without support, and living in a city with increasing cost and no livable wage to match their student loans and rent. Those who stand up and want to do more were cut deep as well when their stipends were reduced. They, as well as I, am tempted by selling out our last assets in Nashville at a pretty penny and moving to a more affordable county state and into a more stable district. This is what I hear daily. This is the word on the street and not just at my school. Yes, Nashville is in some serious growing pains, but the harshness teachers have received this year will continue to drive out teachers who love Nashville and love students. So many invested teachers have left the district, and I'm here at the front of the line trying to encourage and support teachers and admin through this very rough transition and hold on to the remaining teachers that haven't followed better opportunities. I'm considering my family in all decision I make. I'm still here because I have a daughter who's about to graduate with her IBDP diploma and who has been loved and mentored, supported by so many MNPS employees her 15 years of MNPS. She had 2 years of preschool at Shane. But I still have 2 sons who I'm not sure day to day who their teacher will be, what their district will be and do, and what next year will hold for them. That leaves me sad, disappointed, and scared as well as questioning my future at MNPS. My daughter did her internal assessments with IB on the correlation between income and ACT scores. When she asked me what our income was the last 5 years for her data, she asked some hard question. Why is Dad's income so low in 2016? To which I said, well, that is because Dad was running his own business and he had to cut his salary in order for his employees to receive wages above a livable income. This hit home very hard. Every time I look at the director's salary and then I look at mine that is less than last year, I question everything. Thank you.
You.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Eric Huth. I'm president of the Metropolitan Nashville Education Association, which is located at 531 Fairground Court. I began teaching in Metropolitan Nashville Public Schools on October 19th, 1987. At that time, trying to find a position teaching in Nashville was much more difficult than it is today. There are plenty more vacant positions than there were in October of 1987. But I was a Spanish teacher, so there was a need. There still is a need for Spanish teachers in our district. We have plenty of vacant classroom teachers in Nashville that we cannot fill, largely because of the economic impact of having to live in a city with a very large cost of living, and while working for an employer whose wages have declined over time in terms of real buying power for employees. So one of the critical things that both you and the Metropolitan Council need to consider is the livability of our wages. Teachers are fortunate in some respects. We have other classes of employees in this district who are much further behind where we are in terms of our peers in the general community. But in addition to salaries, Metro Nashville Public Schools really needs to invest in our students. They need to invest in the social emotional learning that our students are lacking. As we have moved toward changing the way we do discipline in our elementary schools, we really need to think seriously about not just talking about restorative practices, PBIS and social emotional learning, but we need to actually fund resources so that our students have what they need to be successful in class. Not only those students who are disrupting, but the non-disruptive students whose learning is impacted. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Kathy Baker. Thank you for letting me speak with you today. I have lived in the Hillwood neighborhood for almost my entire life, and these last 10 years our neighborhood has suffered through actual and proposed shuffling and closing of schools like no other time since I've lived here. Hillwood High is moving to Bellevue. MNPS is considering moving Westmead to Bellevue, and just over 10 years ago, Brookmead was closed, and now it's being considered for sale. I don't want you to sell Brookmead, and my neighborhood is upset about it. But if you're going to sell it, then we're asking you to move Westmead to the Hillwood High property. MNPS did a survey where 80% of respondents said they favored keeping Westmead where it is or moving it to the Hillwood property. You may hear about a second survey that was done after the official MNPS survey. We believe this survey was put together because the first survey didn't yield the results that some people wanted. The second survey was limited in scope and time and only given to parents from Westmead, which is primarily parents from Bellevue. You may have heard that Brookmead was closed due to declining enrollment, but before Metro shrunk the zone, it was bursting at the seams. And when Brookmead was open, we had 100% more students from our area attending Hillwood than do now. If Westmead is going to be rebuilt and relocated, then the location would be important to the overall health of the Hillwood cluster and Metro schools. The Hillwood cluster currently has declining enrollment at the elementary school level, and we believe that this is in part due to the unusual zoning patterns within our cluster. We are asking you to do a full study of the cluster and create zones that make sense, and you will have a stronger cluster because of it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tom Baker, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the school board today. Today, I'm asking that Brookmead and the other properties are not surplused. In previous years, school population projections for the year starting in 2020 have surrounding elementary schools to the Brookmead Elementary School projected to have enrollment over their capacities. These schools include Charlotte Park, Gower, and Westmead. New approved developments currently in the area from Briley Parkway to Annex, which surrounds Charlotte Park Elementary School, have approved new construction, which will add 600 new housing units to the area. These projects do not include the Riverview Grand Complex, which is currently leasing units, and there is a minimum of an additional 200 units in this complex. At this time, when Nashville's growth is historically high, we should not be selling capital assets to fund short-term operating budget shortfall needs. These assets will be needed in the future for capital projects. Even though these specific locations may not be suitable for future schools, they are assets which are increasing in value. The average rate of increase for property values over the last 5 years, as determined by the Nashville Property Assessor's Office, was over 30%, with some areas in the Nashville area increasing by 50%. Holding these assets allows the metro schools to participate in this value growth. When suitable new school locations are found, these properties can be sold or traded to acquire the new properties. Please vote no and do not surplus any of these properties. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Ruth Butler. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you today. I'm a member of the Hillwood and Westmead community, and I'm also an MNPS parent of 2 young children. I am concerned that with the vote to surplus Brookmead Elementary, Westmead Elementary is now presently the only elementary property located within Council District 23. If the school were to be relocated out of District 23, this council district would become the only one in the city without an elementary school. Westmead is desperately in need of a new building, and 2 sites have previously been discussed, one in Bellevue across from Bellevue Middle, and one at the current Hillwood High School site that is relocating. Despite its name and location, though, residents of the surrounding neighborhood of Westmead Elementary are not zoned there. We're mainly zoned for Gower, and most of the students that attend Westmead live in Bellevue. Even though most of Hillwood and Westmead is not zoned for this elementary school, many families in our neighborhood do attend MNPS schools. I believe, along with the majority of respondents to the Westmead Community Survey, that Westmead Elementary should be relocated to the Hillwood High School property. I am confident that rebuilding Westmead on this property can include a new zone that builds stronger school communities from the elementary school through the high school. It could also shorten bus rides and travel distances for many students at multiple Hillwood cluster schools. As MNPS looks to its future, the location of Westmead is important for retaining and attracting families throughout the cluster. If moved to Bellevue, 3 of the 4 Hillwood cluster elementary schools will all be rooted in a single community and stacked in just a few short miles of each other. In light of recent development of large properties surrounding Hillwood and Charlotte Park, it seems prudent to locate the elementary schools in multiple communities throughout the cluster to insulate MNPS from future population shifts. If design funds are allocated for Westmead, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that's holding a number that wants to speak? I'm getting a no from Dr. Severe. Okay. Very good. We'll move on to the next portion of our budget meeting, the capital improvement budget process and dates. Mr. Henson?
Thank you, Ms. Shepherd. The topic is the budget process for the capital improvement budget. And as we have previously discussed in prior budget committee meetings, there is a requirement that the Board of Education approve a 6-year capital improvement budget request by the end of January to be submitted to Metro Planning. And then that capital improvement budget request, particularly concentrating, of course, on year one, the year one requests, at some point in the future would be considered by the mayor for what's called a capital spending plan. And so the capital spending plan is the mayor's proposal for capital funding that ultimately would go to the Metro Council, and then the Metro Council has approval for any capital spending plan. So what is being approved at this point is simply a request. And so we've discussed the 6-year capital improvement budget. We have additional copies if you need another copy, but the process would be that the board would need to approve the 6-year capital improvement budget request by the end of January. Typically, that would be the second meeting in January, which is January the 22nd. And so I know Ms. Shepherd had previously talked about or discussed the possibility of continuing this discussion at the next Budget and Finance Committee meeting, which will be on January the 8th.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hanson. So this is the document that Christensen was talking about, and so we will talk about this in detail at the January 8th Budget and Finance Committee meeting. Possibly have a vote at that point. If we don't vote that night, then we'll definitely vote on January the 22nd in that Budget and Finance meeting, because that is the last date by which we have to have an approved capital needs request sent at that time. Anybody have any? Yes, sir.
Not on this topic, Madam Chair, but other business.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Henson, can you give us an update on the 5 surplus properties that the board or the committee voted on recently, and what the appraisals have come back at?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Pinkston. We're going to distribute an updated version of what you've seen. The only change here would be the updated appraisal amounts that Mr. Profit and his team have obtained. So the first property is the vacant land at 0 Brick Church Pike. This is property that does not have road access. The appraisal that came back on this property is $720,000 for 11.73 acres. Property number 2 is the vacant land on Pennington Bend Road. It's just over 3/4 acres. The appraised value that came back on this property is $56,000. Property number 3, the Stokes property that the Budget Committee did not approve to declare surplus. We already had an updated appraisal there of $4.1 million, so that's unchanged. Property number 4, the Brookmead property, we do have an updated appraisal, and this new appraisal is more current because it's based upon land purchases that were made in very near proximity to Brookmead. The current property appraisal for the Brookmead property is $3.29 million. That is 9.59 acres plus 49,405 square feet of building. Property number 5 is the old Hickman property on Ironwood Drive. The appraised value that came back for that property is $1.32 million. That is 11.71 acres with a building of just over 40,000 square feet. And then property number 6, the Hope Park property has not changed. Of course, we purchased that property for $10.2 million in August of 2017, the entire 273 acres. And then property number 7 that was not approved by the Budget Committee to be declared surplus is the Merle property, which we had previously had appraised in February of 2018 at $7.1 million, acreage of 7.94 acres with a building of 35,500 square feet. So this is an updated version with appraisals that are all within 1 year's time and with appraisals for the first time on some of these properties that we had not had appraised in the past.
All right, so just to rewind for anybody who hasn't been following along, what was the last date of the last Budget Committee meeting?
The 4th.
4th of December.
Number 4th.
Yes.
We voted to surplus 5 properties, including Brookmead, a certain amount of acreage at Hope Park, a parcel in North Nashville on Brick Church Pike, a small piece of acreage near Pennington Bend, and another piece of property in the old Hickman location. As I interpret these appraisal amounts, Mr. Henson, that it adds up to $5.4 million roughly, which would get us roughly 40% of the way toward closing the $13 million budget hole that the mayor's office has asked us to consider. So, any recommendations on where we go from here?
From me? Well, we're doing what the mayor and the council asked us to do, which was to look at properties that could be declared surplus to sell so that the proceeds could be used as operating revenue. So these are the properties that we have. The only alternative would be, not the only alternative, but one alternative would be that we end up with somewhere in the neighborhood of a $7 to $8 million revenue shortfall. Because the mayor's budget ordinance and what the Metro Council ultimately approved included $13 million in revenue from the sale of property. And if we're only able to come up with $5.4 million, then we would have that $7 to $8 million revenue shortfall, all things being equal, based upon the revenue projections that were made.
We're still looking at a $13 million hole going into the next fiscal year, correct?
Correct. This is one-time, as you know, this is one-time money, and so this $13 million would need to be made up, quote-unquote, made up in the next year's budget as we go forward in 1920.
Ms. Frog, do you have concerns about the Hope Park property that you hadn't previously expressed?
Okay, I'd like to address both of my properties that are on this list. So first of all, I was not at the committee meeting last week. I had a meeting for my children, and I did not know this was all coming up, and so it was kind of news to me that it got voted through. The Hope Park property, so the history on the Hope Park property was that we had originally planned to purchase part of the property for the school, and then the intent was for Metro Parks to take over the remaining acreage, which is about 300 acres, clearly far more than we need. But when we were given money for this purchase, basically the school was given all of the money to purchase the property, and so we did. So now we're sort of in this space where it's unclear what is going to happen. We have not had recent discussions about whether Metro Parks might be willing to take over that property. We're several years away from moving the school because we did not get full funding this year. We only got $10 million of the amount that we need to build the school. So in the meantime, council members have brought to my attention a letter from the Director of Finance for Metro, and there seems to be some confusion, I guess, among council members and the board as to what can be done with the Hope Park property. So I'm just going to read the language. It says, this property, Hope Park property, was acquired in 2017 through tax-exempt general obligation bond proceeds. I've been advised by the Department of Law that federal tax laws generally require remedial action when property acquired through tax-exempt bond proceeds is sold to a private party while the bonds remain outstanding. I have been further advised that the Tennessee Constitution generally requires a similar remedial action upon such a sale, which remedial action is typically repayment of the debt. So council members have interpreted this as telling us that we cannot sell this property because we still have an outstanding debt on it. I was having a conversation with Mr. Pinkston that it might be possible we just would have a penalty for doing that. So long story short, I am not comfortable voting on selling this property now. In the long run, we don't need 300 acres, and I think we're going to have to figure out what we need to do with that. But based on my conversation with council reps, this letter, and just the lack of current planning around what we're going to do with this property, I would like to hold off on selling a portion of the Hope Park property. I'm happy to revisit it later. And then on the Brookmead property, and I agree with those who have said, I do not agree, I think all of us agree, we should not be selling properties to make up for a budget deficit and an operating budget. However, Brookmead is something that we have been looking at for years. And so I was just going to ask Mr. Profit if he would come up and maybe address some of the concerns about Brookmead, what we've looked at and some of the costs entailed. And then also I want to address the Westmead issue that was raised.
Okay, specifically, Ms. Rogue, what might be your question?
I would just like for you to sort of share the history of what we've looked at with this school, like what options we have looked at, the costs involved and some of the upkeep and those types of things.
It has been put before the board, or not the board, but our office to look at potential disposition of the property with other developers in the past several years. Some of those things fell through, obviously. We have used the property for training for our security department, and primarily they use the small Platorium gymnasium area. The Metro Nashville Police Department also uses the building for some training and things such as active shooter training and those sort of things. Beyond that, the school itself is not used. It's in really bad shape. And we spend somewhere in the neighborhoods of $30,000 to $40,000 a year just on what I call idle utilities, just to maintain the building so that it doesn't completely go into disrepair. We've had to make some repairs to the roof in order to keep it from raining into the building, so to speak. And so there are some costs involved with that, but it's several $1,000s to maintain it during the course of the year.
And then we also looked at it for pre-K. We've also considered it for a site for another school. We've looked at renovation costs. The problem that we've run into with the school is that it is really not big enough for anything but a pre-K.
Right.
It's not an optimal location for a pre-K, and also even renovating it for the pre-K would not be an optimal building for a pre-K or location right now for what we need, so.
Our Office of Student Assignment can speak to a location for a pre-K, but relative to the cost to renovate it, it was projected at least 2 to 3 years ago at around $13 million. That would probably escalate up to about 18 to 20 million now. The school is only sized for about 400 kids or less, which is not the optimal size for particularly for an elementary school. So you've got a lot of things going on there. The site, too, is smaller than what we would normally have for a school. It's only, I think, approximately 9 acres. So those are the things that are not so suitable for that school at this
And
point in
the, and
time.
the Student Assignment Office has also looked at that for cluster needs and has determined that that is not a good
believe
location
that's
in
the
the
case.
foreseeable future, correct?
I'll let Ryan talk to that.
That's correct. Our long-term projections right now don't show a lot of growth in that area, and we have several hundred seats open between Gower and some of the other schools in that area.
So for all of these reasons, I support surplusing this property. The conversation about Westmead is a larger conversation that we're going to have to revisit as we obtain funding for the new school. The funding process now is a little bit slower than it used to be, I believe, or was this year, right? We got funding September. So we're going to have to revisit those conversations possibly next summer, once, or maybe next fall. And we will have to, again, reassess the cluster, reassess the needs for students, where the populations are, and all those sorts of things. We'll go back through those discussions. Unfortunately, we can't do it right now, but so I just wanted to address the concerns that were raised tonight, explain why I am in favor of surplusing Brookmead. The other issue is still on the table. Thank you.
Dixon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ms. Froeg. I appreciate the comments and being part of the process. And I think none of us, to echo one of the speakers in public participation tonight, none of us kind of like the idea of selling off property to fill one-time budget holes. And we've made our position very clear with the mayor and the council, and we'll continue to do that going forward. On the other hand, we are in an extraordinary budget year, and we want to be, as much as possible, part of the solution, not the problem. During the previous Budget Committee meeting, we did vote to surplus 5 properties, including the Hope, including about 198 acres plus or minus at the Hope Park site, meaning the acreage that we would not use for a future high school in Bellevue. I am, so the motion has already cleared the Budget Committee. It's headed toward the board floor, Ms. Froeg, at the next full board meeting, which would be here in about half an hour. I'm completely willing to make the motion to strike that one for now. However, that's still 200 acres almost that we never asked for, never wanted, that got foisted on our capital budget by the previous mayoral administration. And I think, if in fact you're talking to council members and they're concerned about it, I'd be open to transferring that acreage to parks. The letter that you're referencing from the finance director doesn't say that we can't sell it. It says that the letter, or rather the proceeds of the sale, will have to go to cover debt service on the property, which has not been fully reconciled. So, right now it's acreage that we neither wanted nor need, yet we have to provide maintenance and oversight on it. So I'd be happy to pull that out of the motion and amend the motion at the board meeting later this evening if you think your council members are ready to convince Metro Parks to take that property. So I don't know if we can get that answer in the next half hour, but that seems like a logical conclusion there.
Anybody else have any comments or questions? Ms. Bugs?
I do have questions just about what we can do, what we can ask the community do to help us to fill this $8 million gap, or really this $13 million gap that we didn't build ourselves. For those watching, for those in the audience, when we make an operating budget request to the mayor and the city council, and they kind of decide how much to allocate. And when they decided how much to allocate, it included $13 million for in the basic operating budget, but $7 million. It called for the sale of Murrell School Building, which is only appraised for $7 million. So even if we were able to sell Murrell, we still would have had likely a $6 million gap. But since we didn't sell Murrell, the community made sure that we knew that they didn't want it sold. The council made sure that they spoke up and said we wouldn't sell Murrell. So now we have $13 million that we have to make up. We're trying to surplus these buildings to try to make up for some of that so that we can at least keep the bare bones minimum to keep our schools operating. We desperately want to give our educators salary increases we just want to do more in our schools, and we are literally just making up money right now. So what is it that we could do to ask the community to help us reach out to either council members or the mayor or philanthropic organizations to help us to cover this just for this year? I really don't know who I'm directing that at, but there's maybe partly the community, partly to administration. If you had any other thoughts, it's just, I don't know about you all, but I'm scared. I mean, all right.
Anybody else? Okay, so we have exhausted our agenda over here, so we're going to go ahead and adjourn, and then we'll have our school board meeting will start promptly at 5 o'clock.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.